This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Today's episode of the Animaniacs is brought to you by Podcoin. Podcoin is the app that literally pays you to listen to this podcast or any podcast you'd like. Use the Podcoin you collect to get gift cards or donate them to charity. Here's a special offer for our listeners. If you download the Podcoin app and then use the promo code Animaniacs, you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. So go ahead and download the Podcoin app on iPhone or Android today. And welcome, everybody, to another comics episode of the Animaniacs. And welcome once again to the Animaniacs. This is the only podcast out there that's dedicated to the animated television series Animaniacs, as well as Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toon Adventures, and Freakazoid. But today, we're talking about Animaniacs. We're talking about a comic book. Yay! And, and just like always, we're going to go through the comic book, and we're going to be talking about all the cultural references and gags, or at least all the ones that we really want to talk about. And of course, in the end, we're going to give this comic book of Animaniacs a Water Tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again for our comic book discussion, it's Nathan!
No sudden moves or I'll cut the cheese.
Ooh. Okay, I will not move. Actually, I don't care if you cut the cheese because this is over Skype, and as far as I know, Smell-O-Vision or whatever has not been invented on Skype. So.
Well, you haven't got the latest update then.
Oh,
so.
No! Well, I am not updating Skype this time, that is for sure. Wait, mandatory update? Oh, no. Well, like I said before, today we are going to be talking about an Animaniacs comic book. This is issue number 14. Already on issue number 14. It's crazy.
I sense a pattern of our show now.
What's that?
We go we do comic book, and then a Tiny Toons, and a Pinky and the Brain, and then a Freakazoid.
And then a comic book or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to a special episode.
We'll just call it special. So that way we could do. But
we'll see how long that pattern lasts.
Yeah, we've got a pattern. We've done it now for 2 in a row or something of each, I think.
Yeah, but let's face it. I mean, if Rob Paulson or somebody like that wants to come on and
they'll
talk.
Everything else will get bumped.
Yeah, that'll get thrown out the window. We'll put them right in between a Pinky and the Brain and Freakazoid or whatever it happens to be.
And we'll obviously override a comic book episode with that.
Oh yeah, or whatever. I don't know.
We'll something, but
exactly.
There's somewhat of a pattern.
Exactly. Patterns are so much fun, aren't they, Nathan?
Yeah. Should we announce what our Tiny Toons is now, in case someone doesn't want to listen to the whole episode just to get to the...
Yeah, if you're not going to listen to this comic book episode, which, by the way, you can, of course, find this comic book at various online retailer shops, like I think it's mycomicbookshop.com or mycomicshop. I think it's mycomicshop.com. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, You can get it on there probably for a few bucks, but if you are in need of it immediately and you'd like to read along with us, simply, I would just say Animaniacs comic issue 14 scan, perhaps. Would probably find it on Google pretty fast.
Maybe.
And again, like we always say, if you do happen to find a site like that, just be aware that there are many, 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 many pop-up ads that will probably annoy you quite a bit. Just so you know. Well, we asked Kelly what Tiny Toons episodes she would like to do the most, because of course you get free reign. There's so many, especially if Tiny Toon Adventures and Pinky and the Brain, there's so many cartoons to choose from that we're not necessarily going to go in any order for those cartoons. So I was thinking to myself, I bet Kelly's going to pick the music video one. And what did she say, Nathan? What was her one-word response?
Istanbul?
Yeah, exactly. Istanbul. So with that one word Istanbul, we knew right away that it was going to have to be Tiny Toon Music Television, which of course is Season 1, Episode 51. And it is, I think, one of the highlights of the Tiny Toons run of episodes. That's, without a doubt. I think this is the one, of course, where you have Istanbul, not Constantinople, Particle Man, and then some other things like Aretha Franklin and, like Montana Max singing about money and everything. It was, it had a big effect on me, I know, that's for sure. So I can't wait to talk about that episode with you guys next week. So
I'm excited.
Yeah.
They might be giants.
Yep, exactly. So tune in next week for that discussion for sure. And also, let's go ahead and get to some quick Animaniacs news. That's right, Nathan, it's time for the theme song. For once again, hit us with the Animaniacast news theme song.
Doop-a-doop-doop-boop-a-doop-boop. It's the Animaniacs theme song for the news. Beep, 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 beep.
Oh, I keep cutting you off early. I'm sorry. Every time
I keep ending it and then starting it more.
Yeah, exactly. It has we're the masters of having multiple endings to our theme songs. Well, I suppose the first piece of little bit of news is that Kidrobot has finally officially announced the lineup of their characters that are going to be found not only in their minifigures, but also their keychains and enamel pins. Ooh, that's right. And you can get, I believe, the minifigures are on sale right now at kidrobot.com, and hopefully we'll be getting them in stock on our Amazon shop as well, which of course is amazon.animaniacast.com. And you can go there to see a collection of different Animaniac stuff, or simply use that link as your portal to Amazon, because, I don't know, sometimes maybe once or twice or 3 times a day you might be purchasing things at Amazon. So if you use that link, amazon.animaniacast.com, you'll give a few pennies to the Animaniacast on every purchase, and you don't...
Great way to support without having to do anything.
Exactly. Just by typing in a few more letters, and you support the podcast a little bit.
Yeah, you could just set it as a shortcut or whatever, bookmark it, and then there you go.
Bingo. Well, anyway, we'll have those in stock hopefully as soon as possible. But of course, these are blind packaged figures, which it brings a lot of I don't like blind packaged things. I don't like blind packaged things that much.
Like loot crates and things like that.
Yeah.
Just I want to buy what I want to buy.
Yeah, so you're going to be seeing these on eBay a lot, I think, also to finish your collections. And maybe, just maybe, we'll, on our Discord channel or something like that, we'll get some sort of thing together where people can, talk to each other and trade figures back and forth through the mail. I don't know. But
I don't know.
There's got to be a way to easily trade with your friends for these things. I'm actually really hoping that we might come across some at Phoenix Fan Fusion in a few weeks. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But these figures, first of all, the figures we've kind of talked about quite a bit. They're figures of not only Tiny Toon Adventures, but also of Animaniacs as well. So, of course, we have Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. We have Buster and Babs, and then a few other additional side characters. Pinky and the Brain are there. Slappy Squirrel is there, and that is like the first piece of official Slappy Squirrel merchandise that I'm aware of, other than, Happy Meal toys. No Good Feathers this time around. But there is somebody very exciting in there, and that, of course, is the Mystery Chase figure. And we had speculated, based upon the shadow,
the obvious shadow
of this hair, who could it be? And we're like, could it be Freakazoid? And what do you know?
It could be.
It could be, and it is. It is B, because it is Freakazoid, and this is the first, as far as I'm aware of, first Freakazoid piece of merchandise that has ever been released. That is so super cool, and it actually looks really really good. I mean, it's exaggerated form for its, this kidrobot design, which is, big head, little body, little stubby arms and legs. But it still looks really cool. I think they got Freakazoid's likeness down really well. And, of course, the letter F and the exclamation mark look perfect, right on model. And I shared that with Tom Ruger and Paul Rugg, and they were both very excited and wanted to get it right away. So, kidrobot, if you are listening, send me an email. I'll give you the contact information right there so you can send those off to them. And not only that, but there's enamel pins coming out, and Freakazoid is one of those enamel pins as well. So, and then they have some keychains, which I think the keychains are mostly, as far as I can tell, they're Tiny Toon Adventures only characters. And I think the chase one on that one might be Go-Go Dodo. I'm not exactly sure, but they have some other obscure kind of characters in there too. The Bookworm is on there, and then Barky Marky, I think, is his name. And Fifi is in that. So you're getting a mixture of stuff. No Plucky Duck yet. I can guarantee you that there's a lot more characters to go through, and they're going to be...
Yeah, Plucky would be up soon, I would think.
Yeah, and I was talking to some folks. I forget if it was on our Discord channel or... No, I think it was on one of the Facebook groups I was talking on, and how there's just so many variations they could do for Buster and Babs and everything for if they kept doing additional volumes, like just different costumes, and they have like a radioactive samurai slugs that they could do for Plucky and Hampton and stuff. I had to say that, by the way, the only one that I don't really like the design that much of is Hampton. And that's just because his mouth is kind of they didn't really put a line on his mouth at all, at least that I could see. So it kind of just is a blob of pink and 2 eyeballs. So I'm a little disappointed with Hampton's figure. But other than that, all the other figures look really, really cool. I'm hoping to get a bunch of these. Nathan, which of these figures, or would you most like the minifigures, the pins, or the keychains if you had to pick one?
I'd probably get a pin of Freakazoid, because it's pretty awesome. You could just wear it on anything, right? I mean...
Yeah, it's actually, it looks probably small enough that you could wear it on like a dress shirt or something like that.
Yeah.
It'd be funny just like wear a little flare, as they say, right? On your suspenders, maybe. I don't know. But either way, it definitely looks something. It's something to look forward to. I'm really excited that they're putting this stuff out. And by the way, the Monopoly game, the Animaniacs Monopoly game, is out as well. So people can go and buy that as well. That's on our Animaniacast Amazon shop. So there's a lot of Animaniacs merchandise hitting shelves, and this is only the beginning. I'm sure there's going to be much, much, much more in the years to come. So just prepare your wallets, everybody. As a Star Wars fan, I saw this happen in the mid to late 90s. Is when Star Wars started coming back onto store shelves. And at first, you want to buy everything that you can see. And as the years go by, you kind of have to realize you have to focus your collection. So that's all I'm going to say to folks out there is be aware that you might have to focus your collection on this one, because it gets a little crazy. Just be careful. This is not going to end well if you want to buy every little thing out there. Or maybe it will, and you'll have an entire room full of Tiny Toons stuff, and you'll look like the guy on Please, Please, Please Get a Life Foundation with that Animaniacs and Tiny Toons merchandise all throughout your room. It'll look very interesting. Well, so that's it for the merchandise news, but we have more news to get to, and of course, just quick reminders, really. Nathan and I are going to be at Phoenix Fan Fusion coming up in just a couple weeks, huh?
Yeah, it's real soon. Yeah. Memorial Day weekend?
Memorial Day weekend, the 25th. May 25th will be our panel over there at Phoenix Fan Fusion at 10:30 a.m., There's a panel called Hello Animaniacs, and that's us. So we're going to be doing a live recording of this very podcast, talking about the latest news of the reboot, speculation, questions from the audience, and if we have time, maybe even fitting another comic book review. We have actually so much to talk about. We'll just have to see what we could possibly fit into 1 hour. Because honestly, that's the hardest thing with these panels is you have to fit into it just an hour. And boy, that's kind of difficult for me, Nathan, sometimes.
Oh, I know. I like to talk about things.
Well, the last thing that we really want to talk about, of course, is Animaniacs in concert. And oh boy, this is coming up pretty darn soon. This is coming up in July 18th, and tickets are now on sale at Ticketmaster. And I gotta say, Nathan, I'm very excited about seeing this, not only because I'll be in the front row, but also that you'll be in the front row with me, along with Kelly as well. This will be the first time that we're all together and we get to see an awesome show. And if you listen to last week's show and a quick little news recap, I mentioned that Maurice LaMarche and Jess Harnell are, at least right now, it looks like they're scheduled to appear as well. So no mention of Tress MacNeille on that, but they do say it's Comic-Con weekend. So with that in mind, lots of special guests could appear. So we're kind of crossing our fingers for definitely Tress MacNeille and hopefully many more people as well jumping on stage. Maybe me. Maybe I'll jump up on stage. I don't know.
I hope so.
You hope so?
Yes. I want you to go up on stage.
All right. I'm rushing the stage. Watch out, security. All right. Well, that was our news. Hope you're able to check us out and join us either at Fan Fusion or, of course, Animaniacs in concert in San Diego. But let's go ahead and get to our discussion of the comic book, Animaniacs issue number 14, which had a cover date of June of 1996. And Nathan, why don't we go and start off first of all, what the heck is on the cover of this comic book?
Oh boy. So we've got Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. And Yakko and Wacko are dressed as 70s disco kind of thing, I guess. Yeah,
it looks like Wacko kind of looks like Huggy Bear or something like that. Big platform shoes and a big wide brim hat and a fur coat.
And Yakko has a giant afro wig, and he's doing a disco thing. And
Disco Stew.
Yeah, Disco Stew. He looks like Disco Stew from The Simpsons. He has a medallion around his neck. And Dot is wearing a tuxedo, and she's saying, I'm pretty sure the script said super spy, not fly. So it's like they're super fly.
Now, this cover had me very confused because when you first look at it, you look at the most colorful things, right? And I just see Yakko and Wacko, and I'm thinking, oh, this is a 70s issue because they're dressed in the 70s. And Dot, of course, is dressed in a tuxedo and, black and white colors and everything. And I didn't even realize that they're standing in front of this kind of a shutter or something like that?
From the
James Bond movies, right?
Mm-hmm. The starting of the James Bond movie, it goes back and forth, and then he shoots at it, and it turns red, and if you've seen a James Bond movie.
Now, by the way, what is that thing at the very beginning that's looking at James Bond? Is that a sniper rifle? Or
I think it's a sniper rifle, and you're looking at the scope at him.
Okay, I gotcha. You can't snipe James Bond. He's going to get you. Every time.
Every time.
Well, what I should have realized is that this is actually going to have its main segment is a parody on James Bond, of course. So, should have realized that. Well,
I don't know. It's really you really don't. I was like, oh, it's going to be the 70s or.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad I wasn't alone on that thought because I just honestly thought they were just doing themes because we had a theme of the 60s, a theme of Japanese, and now I was like, oh, and this one is a theme on the 70s. Sure, let's keep with those themes, but not at all. This is, and it's a spy theme, at least of just one part. The first segment here is A Spy on the Wall, and then we have some useless facts, a little quick gag of some sort, which if I told you what the gag was right now, it would ruin it. And then finally, a Slappy and Skippy comic. And I've been waiting for something else than just, the Warners and Pinky and the Brain and the Warners and Pinky and the Brain. And we finally got it with this issue. So very excited about that Slappy and Skippy comic. And it is called What's the Holdup? So, Nathan, what would you say about this comic book? Somewhere to ask you about it in just a few words, I should say.
It's like James Bond. I don't know which James Bond.
That's a good point.
But it's fun. There's colors. It's in color.
Very good. Which our last comic was not all the way in color, so very good. Very good observation.
And it features Slappy the Squirrel. I feel like we've said all this already.
Yeah, I think so. Well, let's go ahead and talk about A Spy on the Wall first. And A Spy on the Wall was written by Charlie Howell. Something tells me that may be Charles M. Howell the Fourth, but that's just me because I know
it could be his great-great-grandfather.
Yeah, maybe Charlie Howell. Call me Charlie. I write Animaniacs comics. Grandpa, you're 150. Yep, but I could still write. And the penciler was Neil Sternecki. The inker was Scott McCrae. Letterer Bob Penaha. I can't even read these letters. And colorist Dave Tanguay. Nathan, why don't you tell us what happens here in A Spy on the Wall?
Okay, we pick up. It's the 1980s, and James Bond has just jumped out of a crashing airplane. You see it in the far distance, and the bad guys are floating in the oceans, saying "Drat you, James Bomb." And he's just floating away, and he then goes back to headquarters, where he meets Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, who are his equipment specialists. Is that Q? Or who does that in the...
Yeah, Q.
Actual Q does that.
Yeah,
so
Q.
But now it's X, Y, and Z are what are the code names for Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. And they're showing them all the cool gadgets. They've even sing a little song.
Which I wish I knew the tune to it, because it's a very cool tune. Let's see what the tune is here. It says, if gadgetry is what you're wishing, like hats that fire off ammunition, or nuclear subs for going fishing, we got the stuff for your next mission. That's a very bad tune. I certainly
hope that's not the tune.
I certainly hope not either. But
Charles, why would you write such a bad
tune? Seriously. Somebody look at this and come up with a great tune for us, and we'll say thank you.
Yes. So they're showing him all the gadgets, though, and I guess they're like, kind of annoying him, like they do. But the first gadget he just kind of sits on accident. It's the exploding toilet seat. And then he grabs onto the hot chandelier, which is very strange. You
got to take that on your next mission, is a hot chandelier.
Right, like it's very circumstantial or whatever. But it could come in handy for some reason.
So far, the two things that they've shown you need to have a home improvement person go to the place you're going to spy on first. So the first thing you have to do is hire somebody to install the exploding toilet and the hot chandelier.
You put the toilet in the living room or the chandelier,
or you put the chandelier in the bathroom.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Fancy bathroom.
And then he falls on a carpet of pointy spikes, which is not. It's just spikes. That's not even a.
Wait a second. It's like really serious shag carpeting. It's just a carpet full of nails. It's oof.
Mm-hmm. So they're annoying him pretty well. Dot is then blowing up a bubble gum, and that just explodes completely, and that's gadget number 4, the booby-trapped bubble gum. And he's like, none of these things are going to help me break into East Berlin. I got to cross over the wall. And they're like, oh, well, we can help. We'll go with you for some reason. So they're flying to Germany now. They even have a little panel of them commenting on, like, how are we... You know how in Indiana Jones they show the airplane flying across the map or something?
Yes.
I guess now it's just a red line. But still, that's the idea. They then go to Checkpoint Charlie, the meeting point of East and West Berlin. And standing at it looks like someone that looks a lot like Ralph the Guard.
Yes, he does.
Ralph with it's like an old Ralph. He has a gray beard.
Bushy mustache.
Bushy mustache, yeah. So they're going to break in, and their idea is they're just going to bounce a ball on the other side, and then Dot goes crying, I need to get my ball, mister, and like, oh, and this is my brother, I'm scared to go alone, and then that's Wacko, and then Yakko's like, and I'm his older brother, and we're inseparable, and he's like, okay, that's fine, and then it's like, oh, and this is the spy we're smuggling across the border, he's coming too, and he's like, and Ralph's like, oh, sure, and then they run across, and then he realizes, hey, wait a second, I shouldn't let spies across, which already makes him probably smarter than Ralph, I don't know. And he grabs them, throws them back, and then, wouldn't you know it, it looks like they're trying to cross the border again. This time they're in a very tiny weenie burger car. I don't even know. They're ordering weenie burgers.
Yeah, that's it. They're not in a weenie burger car. They're just in a tiny car.
It's a very tiny car.
Yeah, it's a wind-up car, yeah.
Wind-up, yeah. But they're ordering their food, and Ralph looks over to the window where your ticket window, and Yakko's bringing out all the food, and he's like, hey, did you ask her if they wanted fries? And he's like, no, and then he starts yelling at him, hey, you gotta ask if they want fries. So, I'm just gonna call him Ralph. I'm pretty sure that's not his name. Ralph says, do you want fries mit that? Because he's German. And they're like, no, we're in a hurry. And then Yakko's like, did you hear that? They're in a hurry. Let them go. And then Yakko jumps out the window into the car with him. And then, Ralph realizes that was them pesky American puppy kids again. So he grabs Bond and he's pulling him back. And Yakko's pulling him on the other side. And then he's like, they're saying he goes in. And then Ralph's is saying, I say he goes out. And then out, in. And Bond has no say in the matter. But luckily Ralph gets some help from the other guards who have some pointy gun sticks.
Yeah, they look like World War I German soldiers. They have little points on their heads and everything, and
and then their
bayonets.
guns have bayonets. Yeah, and they're like, yeah, he certainly has a point. Oh. There is a Pinky and the Brain. What is this thing about? Did you understand? Is this like a separate comic book?
Yes.
Of just Pinky the Brain?
A little advertisement for Pinky and the Brain comic book. Oh, yeah. They had their own spin-off comic book series as well. You better believe it.
Well, we'll have to go into those eventually, I suppose.
I suppose so.
All right. So they've got one thing that the guard won't be able to resist. A chocolate cake. So they're cooking James Bond right into the cake. And they're going to bring it right to him. And Ralph's like, hey, is there someone in this cake? And they're like, no one's in this cake. Would I be able to cut the cake if there was someone in it? So Yakko slices a piece of cake, and the cake says, eep.
Meanwhile, this cake, by the way, has like a hand sticking out of it and a foot sticking out. Yeah, they mix James Bomb really poorly into this cake. You could see bits of his body sticking out.
You can see his teeth at some points, yeah. In the next panel, you can see his eyes, and Ralph's like, hey, how come it's got two eyes? And like, no, those are nuts. He's like, why are they peeking at me? And it's like, well, because they're pecans.
Oh!
It's good. So then Ralph's like, my favorite. So he takes a bite into it, and right into James Bond, and he yelps and runs away. And then, Ralph's got chocolate cake on himself. He's getting really angry, but they're like, hey, you gotta watch out. You gotta get that cake off your uniform before the Kaiser sees you like that. And then the Kaiser's coming. And then he looks over his shoulder, and it's the Warners, and they're dressed like they're stacked up on each other and like look like an adult. They got the mustache on, and they say they're the Kaiser, and they're saying, you let the puppy children go, you let the Warners go, and now they're tunneling under the wall. You gotta go stop them. So they send Ralph to go tunnel out after them. So he starts digging under the wall. He's like, no, not there, over here. No, wait, over here, over there. They're pointing all over in different spots. So he's digging. He's got a whole bunch of holes going underneath the wall, and he's like, he's digging. He's dug all the way under the wall now, and then he realizes that they're the warders. They're not the Kaiser.
Which he should have realized that originally, because the Kaiser had not ruled Germany for like at least 50 years, I believe, at this point. So right when you thought this Ralph the Guard German version was smarter, he's definitely proved he does not know his German history. So
no,
sorry.
And then as soon as he finishes, the wall starts crumbling because he's ruined the wall. It's compromised. And it's broken through, and now the other side, now East and West Berlin, are one, because the Berlin Wall is down thanks to the Warners, and they get no credit for it. Life isn't fair, but it sure is fun. Der End. Der
End. Yes. So, this was, obviously this is a weird kind of mixture of a lot of different German things, but is trying to get to the, how the Berlin Wall crumbled, I suppose, was because of the Warners. And this says in the 80s, even though you're right, Nathan, at the beginning of this, you kind of talked about you didn't really know exactly what time this was, because at some points it felt like it was the 60s and then the 40s, or you know what I mean, or 50s or 60s. It really, time-wise, it didn't really make sense. So, but it is in the 80s, and of course the Berlin Wall came down in 1991, so this would still be well known to most kids reading about, what the Berlin Wall was, since this was like, still in contemporary history. What did you think about this first comic? There's not really any, obvious references, James Bond and Berlin Wall.
Yeah, I'm guessing is it Pierce Brosnan then, right?
It could be, although this does not look like
it's
any...
in the 80s. It doesn't really look like...
It doesn't look like any James Bond I've ever seen. In fact, if anything, he actually looks like Charles M. Howell to me. Which I really do feel like he's modeled after a writer or artist more than an actual James Bond character, because he does not look like Sean Connery. He does not look like Pierce Brosnan to me, or anything. I guess they wanted to stay away from caricatures again, because they're, at least in this comic, it seems like they're very scared about doing parodies of celebrities in any manner. Mm-hmm. They want to stay away from that, as we've seen from like the Pulp Fiction episodes or comic and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of disappointing. It didn't really look like any James Bond to me. But any parts in here you thought were particularly funny or anything like that?
I liked the conversation between the villain and his henchman. He's saying, maybe if you didn't tell him your plans and then show him the big red button that self-destructs the whole compound, maybe you could win for a change. Something like that. And then there's that whole speedboat of women in bikinis, and they're saying that they're just there to look good for Mr. Bomb. And that's if he ever looks away from his mirror, because that's what he's looking into his mirror. He's so self-obsessed. It's kind of cute. And then all the boxes. There's lots of like little art or something.
Panels?
Yeah, I got like in the early panels where they have the the stuff for your mission.
Okay.
They have instant H2O, just add water.
Oh yeah, so yeah. A little sight gag
joke.
Right there.
Yeah.
Well, this comic really felt to me like Bugs Bunny-ish kind of stuff, didn't it? I mean, just the way of, because really it turns into, how am I going to do a simple thing of getting across the gate? How are we going to get from point A to point B? And just the silly ways of just torturing the guard in order to distract them really felt like something you would see in a Bugs Bunny cartoon, even the dressing up as somebody else and doing that. So it did feel like a kind of a classic feel to this comic that you would see in actual cartoons a lot. So I like that part of that. But I guess let's go ahead and get to the useless facts real quick, because there's These are pretty useless, in my opinion. This month, the theme is blue. So, first fact is blue jeans originally weren't made of denim. They were made of twilled cotton cloth named after the French city that made it. Jeans, or gens. I don't know how to pronounce French stuff, but it's G-E with a weird thing on it. N-E-S. So, and then Wacko says, yeah, everybody knows that, but why are they called blue jeans? Well, that's another story that has to do with Gold Rush, but whatever. Large quantities of dust high in... Next fact. Large quantities of dust high in the night sky can cause the moon to appear blue, but it is a rare moment, hence like a blue moon. Moving on.
Once in a blue moon, yeah.
Once in a blue moon, yeah. I'm just trying to get through these quick because they're not that good. Finally, his baby boys are dressed in blue because in ancient times the color of the sky and its heavenly energy was thought to protect them from evil spirits. And Dot adds that little girls were thought to be born inside of pink roses. And Yakko, Wacko, and Dot are on a stork, which for some reason Wacko's trying to blow up with a piece of dynamite. And the baby is a baby Mr. Director saying, Goo Laven Ga. Yeah. There's nothing really funny in these, so I'm just going to say, Nathan, did you find anything slightly humorous in this at all? Or...
Well, it's confusing too. Well, the baby boys dressed in blue, like that's also like a fairly contemporary thing too. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like that's not true because there was
boys were dressed in pink and everything. In
the 1920s or so, or the 1960s even, 50s.
Yeah,
it's fairly recent that boys were blue and girls are pink, kind of thing.
These facts were not necessarily useless, but they were kind of weak, I think, because I'm not sure necessarily
I'm like, true. I don't know how much that's actually based on anything.
Yeah, so that's why I kind of just wanted to get through those. And speaking of quick little segments to get through, there's a very quick segment to get through. It's only 4 panels. It's called Take That, and it's just Yakko, Wacko, and Dot sitting down on a park bench. Wacko's looking back and forth in a newspaper, and all of a sudden he does this incredibly wild take. His, horns come out of his skull, and his, sock feet fly off of his toes, and his tail pops off. His
brain explodes into horns and like golf clubs and flags.
There's wild squiggly lines going everywhere, and then he sits back, pops right back down again, and Dot says, Tex Avery Film Festival tonight? And he goes, how did you know? Because Tex Avery did those wild takes with his characters in the cartoons.
Take that.
Aha. Hence the title. Hilarious. Sort of. Not really. But it's cute.
It's good enough for like a newspaper. Like it's as good as any of those comics.
Yeah, exactly. It's just as good as any Sunday's comic that you would just go, huh. I don't think I've actually laughed out loud at any comic since, in the Sundays since I was maybe in elementary school. But then again, I kind of stopped reading those when I was around elementary school too. So maybe there's still some good ones out there. Once Calvin and Hobbes went away, I kind of just said, okay, I'm done with these. Well, let's go ahead and get to our last little segment here. And this is called What's the Holdup? And this is, of course, the return of Skippy and Slappy. And Skippy has a quarter, I should say, that Slappy had given to him. So he's going to put it in his piggy bank. But his piggy bank is so full that it smatters and schmatters everywhere. So Slappy and Skippy have to go down to the bank. So they get in line, and there's like a porcupine teller at the front, and of course the bank owner is a pig, or the guy who manages the bank anyway is a pig. And as soon as Slappy gets up to the teller and says she'd like to visit her safe deposit box again, while Skippy stays in line to deposit all these coins that he had in his piggy bank. And Mabel's very worried about this, so of course the manager goes to take her back there. Well, we find out that in Slappy's safe deposit box, this is where she's kept all of her cartoon gags and a lot of booby trap stuff too. So things like a giant punching glove will come out and punch the manager in the face, and She has a lot of her, I guess they're supposed to be kind of Oscars, but in this case they're like gold Bugs Bunny statues, and she just calls them Bugs, I believe. Well, as she's going through all of her different gags and her different, history things, like, there's the first anvil that dropped on a Warner Brothers cartoon, and the brick that the character Crazy Cat used to throw, or at least at Crazy Cat's head. Yeah, that was it. The mouse. I'm trying to think, like, what happens in those Crazy Cat comics? Is the mouse throws it at the Crazy Cat. That's how it happens. Anyway, another comic I never really found funny. But anyway, while all that is going on, while she's in the vault looking at this, wouldn't you know it, these raccoons come in to the place, and they're going to hold up the bank. And they're not allowed to have guns in this comic book, as Slappy says in a little side panel thing. So instead, the raccoon gang has a knife to a giant wheel of cheese, stinky cheese, so it must be like Limburger or something like that, I'm guessing. Well, he says, everybody, no sudden moves or I'll cut the cheese. Oh yeah, and they actually say, oh, look out, he's armed with Limburger. I didn't see that. So, yeah, there we go. So everyone obviously is not going to, move a muscle. And meanwhile, they even go into the safe deposit room to rob Slappy, which of course that's going to be a mistake. They go up to Skippy and they're like, give me your money, and you too, kid. He goes, but this is only change. Why do you have to take my coins? He goes, it's a matter of principle, Sonny. When you're older, you'll realize the importance of thoroughness and consistency. Now give me the dough. So he takes it away. They tell him, like, oh, you're going to be, Skippy tells him, you're going to be sad when my Aunt Slappy finds out about this. And they're like, whatever. That's a real big threat, whoever this Aunt Slappy is. Well, of course, Slappy is talking in the back room with these other two robbers, and she proceeds to use the gags that she has stored away, such as a pie that had first been used back in the silent era with the Keystone Cops, and Charlie Chaplin's face imprint is even still on this pie, which didn't quite make sense because, well, I guess Charlie Chaplin did get pies thrown in his face too. I don't know, but
sure,
why not? It had to have happened, right? Well, anyway, she takes this pie and it's so old that it's petrified, so she just knocks him out with it. And not only that, but then she blows them up. I like how she has to, again, do this little side note. She gave a side note earlier when she talked about, people not being able to have guns. She goes, yeah, I know this gag is ripe and cheesy, but what do you expect? We're not supposed to show guns. And then when it comes to the bomb, when she's going to light this, classic style cartoon bomb, looks like a bowling ball. She goes, now, don't forget, kids, never, never, never blow up your enemies at home. And if you do, don't mention my name. Remember, those two imbeciles on MTV told you to do it. Beavis and Butthead reference. Because I don't know if you remember this, Nathan, at all, but in the mid-90s, Beavis and Butthead were very controversial with the whole fire thing. And I guess some kid actually did set his house on fire because he was trying to imitate Beavis. So, yeah, don't blow up your house, or if you do, just don't blame Slappy. So there we go. Yeah. Good advice from Slappy. Anyway, she comes out of the bank vault after this huge kaboom and a big thing of smoke. Really good animation, but it's drawn so well it actually looks like it's almost animated. But the raccoons look and they go, "Oh, it's the Tooninator," like the Terminator. And she says, "Schwarzenegger, eat your heart out." And she goes on to kind of do this maneuver where her and Skippy throw the brick and the pie at the raccoons at the same time. The cheese goes flying up in the air. The bank teller and the pig bank manager go to catch it before it hits. And luckily they caught it, but unfortunately the bank teller, who is a porcupine, caught it in her quills on the top of her head. So they basically said, well, when you get it off, just add it to my collection in the vault. And then they leave. The end. The end. And of course, the the raccoons are taken off in, they're arrested and after being blown up and everything. So everything's good. And that's the end of the Skippy and Slappy cartoon / comic, whatever. I say cartoon because I really feel that, I honestly feel that both of these could be made into actual comic or cartoons. What did you feel about this last Skippy and Slappy comic?
I enjoyed it.
The drawings on it really looked good. I really like the design of the raccoons, especially the way that their teeth are animated or drawn. It just looks really cool. So I really liked it. I thought it was not incredibly funny, but a decent story to it and a nice pacing to it as well. So I would like to see this one as a Skippy and Slappy. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, I think for sure this could be. I mean, there's drama there. There's lessons to be learned about investing your money.
Sure.
There's explosions. I don't know. And it's fun. Raccoons being criminals because they have those masks on already, so it fits.
Exactly. Well, this will wrap up our comic book for today. There's not really anything else to talk about other than some basic advertisements, many of which were for DC stuff. On the back of the comic book, there's an Earthworm Jim advertisement for, I guess, what are these, video cassettes? You get like a free Earthworm Jim toy with one of them. Sure, whatever.
Sure.
The one thing that really kind of stood up for me was actually not only just the Pinky and the Brain spin-off comic book that they're advertising, but also the Carmen Sandiego comic that they had advertised as well. And of course they say based off of the smash hit computer game, which I do remember playing that computer game as a kid. It was fun. It's too bad that they don't have, at least easy access to these kinds of games for kids like Carmen Sandiego anymore. I haven't watched the new show. Maybe it's educational. I can't really say.
I don't know.
Not really interested to find out. I don't know.
Yeah. I was like, Carmen Sandiego's like got an assistant or something, and just weird.
No, see, to me, the educational part of the Carmen Sandiego stuff was always the computer game, very educational, and then the game show was very educational, and then they had like the cartoon series, which was nominated for a lot of Emmys. I actually found out from looking at like the times where Animaniacs won. It was nominated a lot of times alongside Animaniacs, and I was just going, God, from what I remember, the Carmen Sandiego cartoon series was not good, and it wasn't that educational either. It was just kind of like people wandering around, or maybe it was educational and it was just too boring for me. I don't know, but either way, I didn't like it. So, lots of little 90s things to take in as well. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get to our Water Tower rating. Nathan, out of 5 water towers, how many would you give this comic book?
I'll say 3.5. I mean, it wasn't like funny, but like all the art was really good, and it wasn't bad. So like I would say it's a good comic. I think there's funnier ones. I don't know. It was pretty good. 3.5. 3.5. Sure.
3.5. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. I want to say 3.5, but I'm going to bump it up a half star for one thing that I forgot to mention, and that is that the Brain makes an appearance in this second comic, and he's one of the clones of Brain from that a few issues ago, where he had used that little ray to, make lots and lots of copies of himself, and he fired Pinky. And he had stamps of himself on his head and everything. And so he's sneaking around in the bank for some reason.
I missed that.
Yeah, so he's sneaking around. So I'm going to give it a 4 based upon that cute little reference to the previous comic. And speaking of references in previous comics, Nathan, last time we were talking about Pinky and the Brain in the comic, and they were talking about, when Godzilla and Dot were fighting, or Gigantosaurus or whatever were fighting. And Pinky says, remember we got big once? Mm-hmm. Or I got big once? That actually does happen in the Pinky and the Brain cartoon series. So I think that's what they were referring to in like the 3rd episode of Pinky and the Brain. Pinky gets zapped with a ray and becomes big and dresses up like Godzilla. So, yeah, that's what he was probably referencing. Should have realized that at the time. But
should have known. I saw there's also Flavio in one of these panels. Oh, yeah,
Flavio's there too. No speaking lines again, of course.
Yeah, but he's in the background, only in one panel, as far as I can tell.
Well, so overall, it was good. Again, I agree. It's not the funniest, but I agree that it's very artistically done incredibly well. Those middle segments were really kind of like bleh to me. So. Yeah. And now I feel like giving it 3.75, but I can't do that. I've never done that before. I'm just going to say 4 because averaging together with 3.5.
Yeah, exactly.
3.75.
Yes, it's perfect.
That's perfect.
I think it deserves 1 4 and 1 3.5.
Sounds perfect. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get to some contact information. Nathan, where can people get in contact with you online?
Well, I suppose I'm on Twitter, Django FT, that's me. Hey.
All right, and as for the Animaniacast, we're on Twitter, and we are on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, you can talk with us over on our Discord channel as well. You can get a welcome link to this Discord channel by going to discord.animaniacast.com, and there you can talk to us as well as many other writers and podcasters from the RetroZap Podcast Network. And of course, because we're a proud member of the RetroZap Podcast community, and we'd love to talk to you about various things. I mean, you can get on there, you can talk about Marvel or in-game, video games, the ArdCast, or Star Wars with Brews and Blasters, or, Starship Sabers and Scoundrels, or Techno Retro Dads, or Kanata's Castle. I think I already said that, but whatever. Also, there's movie talks going on with Newscast Movie Show and Toy Talk with the Dork Lair. There's just so much stuff there, so head on over. And in fact, just go ahead and subscribe to the RetroZap feed, and that way you can get all of those podcasts delivered straight to your device for free, and a lot of pop culture to take in every single day of the week. It's good fun. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. So for Nathan, this is Joey saying good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, Freakazoid, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds are registered trademarks and or copyrights of their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animaniacast unless otherwise indicated.